I'll open us up with a quick invocation, and then we're going to jump right into the program so that our speaker can meet some other obligations this evening. And then I've got some announcements to follow. We're going to get an update from Jimmy Conway on the auction, the recent auction, and a brief discussion following our board meeting yesterday about kind of where we're headed with respect to Steve's question earlier about in-person meetings. So please stick around for that. Although I know Ona's the star here, so we may dwindle once she's done. But yeah, if you'll let me open us with a quick word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this evening. Thank you for the cooler weather this week after some blistering temperatures last week. We thank you for those that have joined us. We pray for those that are attending to other things this evening. We pray for those that are working through school issues as school is opening back up, and we're doing the virtual thing for the most part. Just bless those that are serving the students and those students who are working through those issues, and the parents that are working through it with them. Be with our first responders as well. I know from my house, I hear the sounds of their efforts on our behalf almost constantly, and they're always on our hearts. We just pray that you bless them. Bless the work of our Family Compass volunteers and those who work with that organization to help promote safety and security for our underserved families in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We thank you for their efforts. We just pray that you would be with us in all that we do and be with us this evening. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. And with that, I'm going to quickly turn the meeting over to Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, Chris, and good evening, Lake Highlands. Most of you guys know Ona well, so this is all going to be old news for you, but for the benefit of some of our newer members who are on this evening, the national project of the Exchange Club is prevention of child abuse. And here in Lake Highlands, we have for many years furthered that mission through our partnership with Family Compass. Members of the Exchange Club founded Family Compass in 1992, and the list of Exchange-ites who have supported Family Compass over the years is long and distinguished. It includes current Family Compass board members John Dietz and Patrick Brown. Given the importance of Family Compass to our mission, we are excited to have Ona Foster, CEO of Family Compass, with us this evening. Ona received her bachelor's degree from Colorado State University and her master's in social work from UT. Prior to joining Family Compass, Ona worked with the nonprofit Vera Institute of Justice, providing training and technical assistance for national grant programs under the U.S. Department of Justice's Office on Violence Against Women. She also directed the Supervised Visitation Center at the Family Place here in Dallas, and then spent 4 years working in the Dallas County DA's office in the Family Violence Unit. So Ona was originally scheduled to join us in April for a nice, relatively uneventful annual update. That obviously didn't happen, but we are so glad to have her tonight to give us that general update and, of course, to discuss the events of the last 5 months. How the pandemic has affected families and how Family Compass has been able to play a crucial role in continuing to protect at-risk children. So please join me in welcoming Ona Foster. Ona, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me all right? Am I good?
Yeah, you're good. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, great. Yeah, so it's been an interesting time at the agency, so this is a good time to give updates. The pandemic has affected us greatly, and I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to be really honest with you all. It's been a real mixed bag for us, and so we immediately, when the pandemic hit, I was actually out of town. I was in Denver, and we quickly figured out what it meant for us, not only on the staff side, but on the finance side. And I'm going to talk about both. And so we immediately transitioned all of our services remotely, which, as you all know, we do in-home mentoring. And then we also go to other agencies and teach parenting classes. So all of that we immediately ceased doing in person, but we contacted every single family and asked them what they wanted to do in terms of staying connected, because we knew if we didn't stay connected that they were going to have problems. And so we knew how critical that was. And so every family with us selected their own unique plan and schedule in terms of how we would continue to be in contact with them, which changed over time as people got more comfortable with Zoom. But a lot of our teen families, they were able to quickly move to FaceTime. So they were familiar with that. That was a comfortable platform for them. So we were able to stay pretty much in contact with them right off the bat. And some families using Zoom was no problem at all. Other families, we have some families that don't have internet. And so it's good old fashioned phone calls to stay in touch. And so we kind of did anything that would work with each family. And so we continued to hold all of our services with all of our families and just make that remote transition. I already had a flexible workplace and schedule in place for the team. And so in terms of people's working hours and being flexible, not coming into the office, that wasn't a big deal for us. That was a much bigger deal for a lot of other agencies I know. So kind of taking that work into the home, they were pretty comfortable with that. So that worked really well. And the transition with the families did well with us until about week 5. And I don't know if you all remember, I don't know what it was about. It was like we were a month and some change in, and the pandemic, I think it hit everyone that this wasn't just going to be a real quick thing. Little did we know how unquick it was going to be. But it was around week 5, we started really seeing some of the challenges of the summer. Routines were thrown off. Parents had been with their children for 5 weeks in a row. And a lot of parents were starting to experience job loss. And we started to see the mental health stuff kind of explode. It was right around that week 5 when depression, we saw a lot of anxiety. And as you all have heard me talk about, stress in the home is like one of the number one factors and indicators that you're on the path with child abuse and neglect. And so we knew that we had our hands full. And so basically what's happened is the staff have ended up not having to drive as much. So that's given them some more time, but they're now spending more time with the families because we're often the only outside entity, much less professional, that's really kind of in that family's sphere. And so things have gotten pretty intense, and we've had everything from, we had one mom who locked herself in the bathroom to talk to my staff. And that was a 2-hour conversation. And she talked about just the chaos in the home, the kids wanting attention. And, when you've got homes if there's domestic violence, those kinds of things. So it's gotten very intense for the team. And so we're starting to the weight of that, particularly now, we kind of thought there might be a break July and August. And now with back to school and the kids are still at home and it's an ongoing thing, the mental health stuff has been the most challenging. So that's been tough. I think for us, so far, we've been able to stay connected to the majority of our families, increase the time we spend with them, fall back on those relationships that we had already built, and keep a lifeline into the homes where if we think that something's off, we can tell the behavior of the kids, we can tell the adults. We have a really good sense of what's going on in those households. And you all know we serve about 2,000 parents and kids a year. I think for me and for the staff, when we've talked and we've debriefed and tried to keep each other sane, which is a whole other thing, is staying connected as a team. The thing that is so worrisome when you're in this field, and certainly an organization like you who have this as part of your charter, the child abuse prevention piece, is knowing that the homes that we're not in, what's going on in those homes. And it's really scary and it's heavy. And so we're also spending a lot of time debriefing each other. So I'm spending a lot of time with my leadership team, helping them kind of do that secondary trauma debriefing, and then they're doing it in turn with their teams. So we're all kind of, we keep trying to roll it uphill so that everyone can just kind of stay sane. But the flip side of that is my staff are also, a lot of them are young moms, and they're dealing with the same exact issues. And I think that's the thing about this pandemic is it's almost like when you're going to counseling for going through a divorce and your counselor's going through a divorce at the same time. It's like this, you're really dealing with the same exact issues in your personal life that you're trying to professionally help the families deal with. And so keeping the staff mentally healthy has been a huge piece for us, and it's just been a really big focus for me. So we've done a lot of things for them, with them, and we even did like a self-care retreat. We just had this last month, and they got to order kind of like a Secret Santa thing. They got a person assigned to them, and then they got to shop on Amazon and spend up to $50 on that person to get them self-care items that they had put into a big list. And so then we got on to Zoom and shared what everyone was going to do with their self-care items and how they were going to take care of themselves. And so we've tried to be creative. We've tried to do things like that to just keep them going. The biggest challenge that I've had is financially. As you all know, that's always the chore in nonprofits. And so the second this hit, we had the luncheon scheduled up, and so it couldn't happen. So on the heels of canceling the luncheon, and we could already, like, I had foundations kind of shut their portals. I had corporate funding that stopped, and donors got scared and they weren't donating. And so we could immediately see that the expense side was going to overtake us. And fundraising in a recession is really difficult. I already knew that, but fundraising in a pandemic when there's fear, it was really scary for a while. And so we immediately cut expenses, and I froze hiring, and I had 2 open positions. I had 2 pending and 2 that I moved internally. To kind of explain it, I actually had a dedicated funding stream for a program in Collin County, and I split 2 of my Dallas staff into that program because we had 1 open position up there. So it was 1 FTE. So I was able to split and pick that up because I knew I would have funding coming down through the state dedicated in that program. But it left me short-staffed in the Dallas home mentoring program, for example. So we made changes like that. So we did a hiring freeze, we froze raises, it moved staff internally, we took out training dollars, I could remove some mileage because we weren't driving, and then to make it so we could project and see if we were going to be able to not lay anyone off. That was my biggest thing, is we all do this together and we keep everyone intact. And so everyone, I took a 20% cut, and then the staff took a 10% cut across the whole agency. And that kept everyone in place, kept their jobs, kept their benefits. And then we turned around, and John Dietz was part of these conversations too, figuring out what we could do to give them some time off, to do self-care stuff. So we tried to kind of buffer that. And then we were able to write a grant where we got a $500 gift card. It was through an entity we'd never even heard of. So we got a $500 gift card for everyone on the team. The Kappa Deltas of Richardson, Plano, there's an alumni association. They came together and are giving us Amazon gift cards for the team. So we've kind of been trying to, as we go, offset the salary cuts that they're under. And in the meantime, while all of that's going on, they were absolute troopers. They were positive. They got the big picture. They're like, we're just glad that we're all in this, that no one is being left behind, that we're still able to execute our mission. And everyone was really positive. And so morale has been really good. And I was really worried about that. And everyone's just been fantastic. And so they've rolled up their shirt sleeves and dug in and stayed connected to the families and continue to do what they need to do. And then in the meantime, we started writing grants. And you probably, you may have heard about North Texas Cares. There were some foundations that came together. And so I was able to turn, and because we knew what was going on in the homes, it was kind of this echo crisis of child abuse. So we were able to make a compelling case for this emergency assistance. And we just shot grants out to every single entity we could possibly send them to. And I called upon my close foundation partners, and we applied for the SBA Paycheck Protection loan. And so we got a $250,000 loan, which is hopefully going to be, we're hoping 100% forgiven. We're in that process now. And then out of all of the emergency funding, we raised about $400,000. And if your jaws aren't dropping open, they should be, because it really was stunning to raise that amount of money in such a short amount of time. And so, so the community stepped forward in a different way than they really ever have. And I had foundations fund us that have never funded us, that we've asked for funding for in the past. And they, oftentimes they'll ask you for something new and innovative. And, sometimes you're sitting here going, but our core services are fantastic, but I have to come up with something new. And I don't, and so this time it was, tell us why you need to keep your doors open. And I could clearly articulate that, and they responded. And so we really kind of got a breather, and we were able to stabilize. Whereas I think that some of the other agencies that sat back, some of them didn't make the cut to get in on the Paychecks Protection Program like we did in the time frame we did. Some of them missed it altogether, and some of them didn't get some of this emergency funding. And so we were really fortunate in that, and kind of everything combined, we're able to cash flow out to the end of the year. And I can see it. However, this is, of course, I'm down 4 positions. I've got these salary cuts in place. We're still kind of holding the line, but it means I can execute the mission. And I'm not saying I can't make payroll next month. So we had a lot of really cool things also happen because people really wanted to help. And I think that was the other offshoot that came out of COVID, was people were at home and they started to see, we were putting out stuff. There was stuff in the, the news. I'm sure that you all were talking about, what's going on in these homes. And you saw the pinwheel campaign that you were the ones that did the pinwheel campaign. We got so many new donors from that. And thank you for everyone that put pinwheels out on your front lawn. And we posted that on social media. We had one woman who is a supporter of us. She saw the pinwheels, and she has nothing to do with Exchange Club. And she called me up, and she gave me $10,000 worth of stock just because she saw pinwheels in someone's yard. And it reminded her that she wanted to support us. And so stuff like that happened. We did a diaper drive. It was a crazy success. We had mountains of diapers and wipes. And people couldn't get wipes anywhere to save their life. And I had a pile of boxes of them. And so we were able to get those out to our families, which helped to ease the burden in the homes. So we've really had some amazing things happen. And a number of you have reached out, a number of you have donated, a lot of you got involved in our lip sync event that just happened. We smashed our goal. I had $10,000 projected in cash flow for that, and we were almost to 19,000 when it's all said and done. And that was, for those of you that missed the lip sync battle, if you will, our fundraiser. We posted it on Facebook, and we had 8 fantastic videos, and each team that made a video fundraised. And that's how we did it all virtually. And so we had teams that were from out of state. It was crazy. So it was fun. And so we've had some really amazing successes. And through all of that, we've gained a lot of new donors and awareness of the agency that we've really not had before. And we knew that that was something that was a priority for a development team in the past. And so it's just sort of naturally been evolving that more people know about us. And people really are caring about what's happening with the homes and the kids that are at home. So that's been just an amazing offshoot of the pandemic. And so as challenging as it's been, there have also been some really great silver linings that have come out of it. And we're by no means out of the woods. Again, fundraising in a recession is not fun. And 2021, we're cautiously looking at, now we're going to go into our budget setting in September and October and try to set a somewhat flat budget. But I really do need to replace the person in the Dallas program, and I'm down a position in development, for example, and then I've got 2 other positions that I really need to put people in. And so we'll probably focus on 2 of the 4 and see how things go. And so that's kind of where we are. So it's been really mixed, and some really great things and some really challenging things. I'm sure you'll have some questions for me. Next up, we've got North Texas Giving Day is really going to be a pretty big event for us. My development director, Chad Black, who many of you met at the holiday party, he's created a video campaign around dominoes, and it's very powerful and compelling. And so we're really hoping North Texas Giving Day will help us be able to sort of project into that first quarter of next year. That combined with our golf tournament, which I know you all have been talking about. We're absolutely going forward with that. And according to Cowboys Golf Club, where we hold the tournament, the nonprofits that have held tournaments out there have done very well because there's nothing else to do. And this is outside, and they can do it all with the same kind of social distancing that restaurants are using in the club. But because it's in October, they're going to have the whole back patio opened up. We can do food trucks. People can walk up. We don't have to do some of the things we've done in the past, and we can still have the same event that we did. And apparently attendance has just been off the charts for these things. And we're already, I think we've already got 40 or 50,000 pledged for golf. And we're projecting 75. So it's going to sell out, I think. I would love to have exchange-ites out there. So I would encourage everyone to reach out to us. I think we sent out the brochure, and love to see you out there. And I think we're going to have a really good day. I'm really excited about that. Everyone's excited to be in person and be able to do it safely. And Cowboys does have a lot of great protocols in place. If anyone's curious about any of those, just reach out to us. So that's October 15th. So it'll be here before we know it. And yeah, that's kind of us in a nutshell. So we're kind of a little all over the place, and yet we're really centered. So I think that's the best way I can put it. Things feel good at the agency, and I kind of feel that pressure to make sure that we're still filling those positions. And I need to really just be tracking what's going on with my team, and we have a plan in place to try to restore their salaries so that they can, because they're moms with kids too. So just kind of thinking through all of that on the back end. So I would love to open it up for comments, questions, and there may be some stuff that I missed, and but would love for you all to weigh in.
And for questions, feel free with the size of this group to just unmute yourself and ask, or if it's easier, feel free to either type it into the chat or message it to me directly.
Ona, Mark Holmes.
Mark.
Let me just say, great organizations need great leaders, and great leaders are always shown when they're tested by adverse circumstances. So let me first start by saying what a tremendous leader you have been for this organization through these tremendously trying times. You went through great detail the adverse circumstances that y'all are trying to drive your mission forward through. And I just wanted to applaud you personally, and I know we'll applaud you as a group on everything you're doing for all your stakeholders, which are your employees, your families, your contributors, and everyone else. So kudos to you. You've just done, I think, an outstanding job, a job that a lot of us wouldn't know where to begin. So congratulations on all your successes to date. Let me pivot though, because we're here to talk about how we can help you continue, grow your mission, you know, take care of your folks, and take care of your families. This could be a little nuanced. Do you sense at either the federal, state, or local level where funding priorities are all kind of in debate, is there an opportunity for organizations, whether it's Child Prevention of America, PCAA, whether it's at the state level, or whether it's local level through either CPS or organizations like Family Compass, is there an opportunity to approach government and say, folks, as we're looking at the way we're going to fund certain services, is there an opportunity to divert more of these resources to the prevention of child abuse? I'd be interested in your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I serve on the policy committee for Tex Protects, and they're an organization that they're here locally, but they advocate at the state level. Since I do receive that state pass-through money, I really can't lobby, but they can. And so that's kind of how we do it. But there is an act, it's called the Family First Act, and it's coming down from the feds. And each state has some latitude in how and when they allow this funding to come through. And the deadline is October of 2021. And you can look it up. And child abuse prevention and home mentoring are solidly in its wheelhouse. Like, I'm tailor-made to get this funding. And, but Texas is potentially waiting until October of 2021 to bring the money down. And so that is something, I know Tex Protects is working to try to push around that. And other states are bringing that money down sooner than Texas. And so that it's Family First Act. And when that money comes, if it were to come earlier than October of 2021, I mean, it's a no-brainer for an agency like Family Compass.
Oh no, can I jump on that and say, with the legislature convening coming up in January, is that something that, as far as accelerating the money, is that a law that's already been passed? Is that executive action we need to press for, or is that something that the legislature is going to need to take up as part of session?
Yeah, it's probably going to be part of session, and that's what Tex Protects is working on. And so if there's anything, as I continue to work with them, if they need signatures or, you know, letters to, you know, you can send an email, that sort of thing. If that's something I can pass along to the club and you all are willing to be part of that, that would be fantastic.
I'm willing to sit down to a plate of eggs with John Turner and implore him to push that forward in session. So
wonderful.
Just let me know when that needs to happen.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you. Thank you. Great question.
Yeah, I suspect you'd have a sympathetic ear with John and with Nathan, our state senator as well. Yeah. So we will definitely let them know our thoughts on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think John Dietz is wanting to say something, but is having trouble getting through.
Yeah, I hope y'all can hear me now. Maybe. Yes. All right. So first, Ona, thanks for coming tonight. We did auction off a golf spot. I believe Alan Hamilton bought that, so we will have a team, at least one team from the Exchange Club there.
Good.
Which is fantastic. I know we'll have others that show up and want to play. Jimmy's just volunteered to be a bag boy for somebody. Maybe we can auction that off. But you know, again, this time of year we have been very blessed. But don't forget that every year we're out here kind of doing this struggle. We really appreciate all the help we get from the club. And we really appreciate all the help we get from all of you, whether it's through actions or through donations or for volunteering. Every little bit we do helps Family Compass. So I don't know if Patrick's on, but he joined the board a while back. We're thrilled to have him, and always still looking. I'll put it out there. Always still looking for more board members. If anybody wants to get involved, please let us know. Reach out. Always trying to find great people that want to help our cause. And it is a cause that is supportive of both the right thing to do, and it is a financial benefit to the state. If you look at the numbers, and Ona can talk about that too, but there's some real numbers that show when we prevent child abuse, what that means down the road to our tax dollars. And that's something that should strike a chord with everyone, regardless of their opinions on other things. So, and I thank all y'all for coming tonight to listen to Ona. I was a bit late. I'm actually at a soccer game standing outside, but I truly appreciate everyone coming and hearing what she had to say. So thank you.
Thanks, John.
This is Patrick. I'll pay a good sum of money for Jimmy to be my bag boy at the tournament.
I accept. I assume you're paying me.
We'll donate the proceeds to Family Compass.
Awesome.
Hey, Ona.
Yeah.
Ona, tell us a little bit about what other organizations like Family Compass exist in Dallas and Collin County, and kind of explain that from that perspective of other organizations, like Family Compass.
Yeah, so there's a number of organizations. We chair the Child Abuse Prevention Coalition in Dallas, and so there's a lot of organizations that are involved in child abuse prevention. They typically are involved in intervention work, and then prevention is an offshoot of what they do, versus us. As you all know, everything for us is all about stopping it before it starts. And so, but CASA, we do a lot of work with them. The advocacy centers, both in Dallas and Collin County, we do a lot of collaborating with them. Again, they're kind of coming in after the fact. Child Care Group does home mentoring. It's not wraparound like us, but they do a nice job in getting into the homes. And then there is a program through Parkland where the nurses will go in after someone has a baby. They'll do that initially, and then they'll refer them over to us, and then we can come in with the more long-term work that we do with the families. So that's an important partnership as well. So there are a lot of other agencies that we work hand in hand with. The Domestic Violence Agency, those agencies are really struggling too, because if you've got domestic violence in the home, it's more hidden than it ever has been. And so that's also affecting the work.
So what I was getting to is, so there's not many people or the organizations like Family Compass that are in the home mentoring the parents, et cetera, right?
Correct. And we're the only one that does it for the length of time and in the depth that we do it, and with our mission being solely focused on prevention. We're the only one. So we're very different in that regard. And which is why, interestingly, this Family First Act, it's prevention and it's in-home mentoring and it's long-term wraparound in-home mentoring. And so for us, it's everything we do is about the prevention aspect. And so that's different. That's different than any other agency. And I think it's harder to sell from the funding standpoint. It's harder to sell prevention. I think you all understand it because we talk about it so much, but when I meet someone kind of cold and have to walk them into it, I first have to explain what prevention even really is. And because everyone's so geared to think about intervention, and this horrible thing has already happened, and what do we do to fix it? And then if people get really excited, but prevention is so, you can't really see prevention. And so that's when I kind of start in with some of those. John mentioned, like, we saved over $600 million in 1 year because of the cost of one case of child abuse. Our agency alone did that. And so prevention is, particularly now when you hear people talking about CPS cases being down, they're only down because no one's seeing these kids. It's not like it's not happening. And by the time they do get to the hospital, it's just too late. It's catastrophic. And when we do come out of this and we aren't sheltered in place and we do really start to get eyes on these kids, it's going to be pretty heavy stuff, and it's going to crash the system, is my fear. And so prevention is the only answer. And I mean, I've got 50 families right now on a waiting list for home mentoring, and I can't get to them because we've got our hands full with the families we're currently working with because they're all in crisis. And so we're keeping those kids out of the system. But what's happening with the 50 families that are on the waiting list? What's happening with the families that don't even know about us yet? Or, so it's, and I know you all know the weight of this, and I'm preaching to the choir, but it's a heavy burden. And when I look at 2021 and try to project, it's difficult. And I think, and I know John will echo this, looking at our budget and, what is it we want to do? We're about to go into strategic planning. We just sent out our internal surveys. We haven't had a strategic plan in place for a couple of years. And so we've got it, we need to do it, but now we're doing it with a pandemic in mind and uncertainty. And so it's going to be an interesting process to say, where do we think the agency is going to be in 5 years? And what that looks like a year ago from today and what it looks like today, we're probably all going to be saying something very different than we would have. So it's just an interesting time, and it's a time that I think brings a lot of heaviness. And so we're trying to kind of fight to stay positive, and we're going to do everything we possibly can in our corner of the world to keep the families we can work with safe and keep those kids out of the system and out of hospitals. That's kind of it for us. It's all that we do.
And Ona, you mentioned, reporting is down, but actually infant deaths, children deaths, and
yeah,
hospital admissions are up. So when you talk about that's an inverse correlation that makes no sense when you look at it. But when you have folks like nurses and teachers and counselors who are required reporters not being able to see the children, that's when you have problems. And then, so
right.
there will absolutely be a massive drain, as you said, when we come out of this, and that's what we have to be prepared for and understand how we can be best set up to assist and continue to push our message and try to help, versus just kind of standing back and kind of being in shock and awe, which I think some places will be in that state for sure. Probably the county systems who don't have the ability to grow and don't have the ability to be flexible are gonna be overwhelmed, and we're gonna have to help a lot. So
yeah, and that's the thing too, is if I can fundraise right now enough to project some growth, then the agency we can get to those families on the waiting list, and this is without even advertising, so the more families we can get under the roof, but I have to have staff to do, it's just all kind of tied, and I can't just bring staff on that I can't sustain. And so there's a longevity piece too that we have to hold. It's you're running a business. It's got to be run like a business. And if I don't have operating expenses held aside, then that's short-sighted. And so it's kind of that line of, yeah, maybe I have this money from fundraising under COVID. I could hire a $50,000 position, but can I maintain that position for 2-3 years? You really have, I just have to think out into the future. And so those are the conversations we're having, which we're, again, fortunate to even be able to have those conversations versus how are we going to even make it to the end of the year? I'm not having that conversation, but I am having the other ones. And how are we, like John said, how are we going to grow our capacity? Because if prevention isn't happening, the system is not going to be able to handle this, period. It's just not. It's going to be a real nightmare when this starts to lift. It's a nightmare right now.
Yeah, I think to echo and kind of latch on to something Mark mentioned early on in the questioning, you know, this is a time to take advantage of opportunities to see how government entities are going to think about allocating funds for different types of services. And this is something that is, like you said earlier, a no-brainer in terms of its impact. So I know, you know, Mark articulates things so much better than I do and most of us do, but we're so grateful for you, the work that Family Compass does. As Michael alluded to during the introductions, you know, this is one of our charter missions as an exchange club and as a national club. The prevention of child abuse is the national platform dating back to 1979. You know, and we had a significant hand in forming what is now Family Compass. We've had members on that nonprofit's board from its inception, and we are, you know, we're in this with you, and could not be happier to hear that you've made it this far through the pandemic, that you've had success in keeping the funds coming in, reaching the families that are in need. In my mind, it's both a blessing and a sad, you know, comment on things that you've got 50 people on the waiting list, but the fact that you are able to identify and find those new families to reach out to when the opportunity presents itself is important. And we're so grateful for the work that y'all do in the community and the work that you do supporting it. You know, just kind of having seen your hand on it and how it's grown and been successful since you got here has been amazing. So we're very appreciative. We thank you for the update tonight. Just thank you very much.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, and knowing that you guys are in our corner. There have been a couple days when like the pinwheel stuff happened, and I mean, I had a couple head down on the desk days, and when stuff like that happens and I see that response, it's like, okay, I can fight through this. I can do this. We can get through this. And so you guys are awesome. Thank you. It makes me feel like I'm not alone and that the agency's not alone. So you've always been there, and that really means the world. So thank you. I do have a funny story to share if you want me to end on some levity.
Sure. Love it.
So during the COVID crazy grant writing, we're pumping out all these grants, and I got this email, and it was for PPE, personal protection equipment. And it was like a 5-question quick online survey. And I just responded really fast. And the doors to the church where we're housed had been locked since the pandemic started. So I put my personal, like the home address on it, and sent it off, but I put the name of our office administrator. And so then this just happened like Monday this week, get a note through the mail that they were unable to deliver the packages. And it was Corey Jackson. And I was like, what the heck? And so I go to the post office and I walk in with a little slip of paper, and they're like, they didn't even ask me for ID. They were like, they looked at the slip of paper and they were like, oh yeah, we have your packages. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And I had no idea. And they were like, well, you have 19 packages. I'm like, okay, well, can I roll them out to the car? And they're like, oh no, the cart they're on doesn't fit through our door. And there were these giant boxes. Apparently I had in the mix, and I can't even find the email. I don't even know who these are from. I have 19 boxes of 500 cloth masks, white cloth masks. So you can do that math really quickly. So I've managed to get 5 of the boxes. So right now I have 2,500 masks sitting in the lobby of Family Compass, no staff anywhere near them, with 14 more boxes at the post office. So, you know, it's like little treasures come and the big ones.
Well, we've got a handful of guys with giant pickup trucks that would love to come help you get those over to your facility. Boyd's the man to talk to.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks. Yeah, I might need some help with my 9,000 masks or however.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
That is
thanks
fantastic.
but really thanks for having me tonight, and thanks for everything that y'all have done to. I see your names come through and on our campaigns, and y'all are just fantastic. So thanks for helping us keep going.
You bet. You bet. We're happy to do it, and again, very grateful for you, and thanks again for the time this evening.
Absolutely.
All right. Great update. Thank you, Michael, for putting that together. And, you know, a few months late, but it's good to get the annual update from Family Compass. And what a time to get it. You know, this is a very unique time, and, you know, kind of hearing how people really in the trenches and on the front line are dealing with the pandemic, and dealing with it successfully is encouraging. So very good. So a few things, since we're doing the meeting out of order, I've got to flip back through my agenda. I see that we've got, yes, and thank you. I know you've got other obligations this evening, so if you need to step out, we certainly understand.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
With back to the beginning, I saw we've got two of our newest club members with us this evening, Raymond Morrow and Drew Solomon. I saw we're on the Zoom, and if I've missed other new members, I certainly apologize, and you're more than welcome to unmute and raise a hand and holler at us. But we welcome you two new guys, and look forward to getting to know you and enjoying your time of service with the Exchange Club. Both of those guys, in fact, I think maybe all four of our new members that we voted on last night are former Lake Highlands High School grads that have returned to the friendly confines and have decided to join up with us. Drew's dad is a longtime club member, and so yeah, we're just glad to have those guys, and I'm encouraged that we're continuing to bring the new members in, despite not being able to meet in person, you know, and just kind of the general uncertainty of everything. So we appreciate y'all joining us. Do we have any other guests? I tried to scroll through to see if there were names I didn't recognize, but if anybody is aware of another guest that we should recognize, I'll stop talking for a second. Mark just flashed up on my screen. You're not a guest. Okay. There's a lot. Let me just hit some announcements, and then I'll turn it over. I've got a few guys with some updates, and then I'll have the update on the meetings. As Ona mentioned, we've got the Family Compass Golf Tournament, October 15th, Cowboys Golf Club. There's a registration link. I think it's been in our newsletter. We'll continue to keep it there. And I think Rick pushed out a brochure right before the meeting for that. I've played in this tournament. It's fantastic. It is literally second to none in terms of charity golf tournaments. So if you have the opportunity to sign up and go play, I'd encourage you to do that. The Wildcat Club Cat Classic Golf Tournament is the same week, but on the Monday, October 12th at Firewheel Golf Park. Their information's on the Lake Highlands Wildcat Club page. And we've got a fundraising opportunity coming up, and just to keep this on everybody's radar, you know, and Jimmy's going to give us the auction update, which is good and coming up, but we're going to try to figure out a way to do some kind of smaller periodic fundraising event throughout the next, you know, the rest of this year and into next year, just because we don't know whether we will have a big spring fundraiser event, or, you know, kind of what that's going to look like. So we're looking for opportunities to do some things where we can do it safely, social distancing, you know, and whatnot, and still raise some money. So the first of those is going to be an OHB Oktoberfest on October 3rd. We've been selected as one of 3 local organizations that OHB is going to share some proceeds from an evening with. They've invited us to come on the 3rd. We're going to cook some brats and maybe some other food items and have those available for sale to folks who show up to the event, and hopefully use that to kind of generate some additional revenue. So get that on your calendar. It's a good way to support OHB, and they're kicking some profits back to us on that. So in addition to the brat sales, we'll have a little bit of money there. But it should be a lot of fun. It's going to be outside, so again, can be done with some safe social distancing practices. And so look forward to that. There'll be some more details to come, but wanted to get that on everybody's calendar. Let's see, Bill Boyd has an upcoming community service opportunity for us. And if I've not called on him while he's had to step out and attend to parenting duties, there he is.
I'm here. Okay, so one of the things that we're looking to do is how can we do community service in the COVID world? And what we're going to try to do is do multiple smaller touch projects that we can, be together, but still, proper social distancing and all that jazz. So the first one, and Javier, to answer your question, October 3rd is the OHB deal. So not this Saturday, but next Saturday, up at the high school, we want to help them out by refreshing the big LH that is out in front of the west entrance. It's in really bad shape there. It's a big concrete structure with a red LH that is supposed to be filled with gravel, and instead, I don't know if Rick is going to be able to pull up the picture. It looks like this. So that's all supposed to be rock, and obviously it's not. So what we want to get is to get a group of folks out next Saturday, the 29th. Let's get there early. Let's get there about 7:30 to beat the heat and clean that out, get it weeded, get it round up it, and put down a fresh stain of a rock and really refresh it for when the kids hopefully return to school a week or so after that. So put that down. If we have an overflow of people, which would be awesome, the park across the street, we have a arrangement with them to do periodic cleanup, so we can just park or have a few folks head over there with trash bags and do a little cleanup. So the more the merrier. And so that is the 29th, 7:30. We'll see you there.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. All right. The update that everyone's been waiting for. Mr. Conway is going to give us the results of our recent auction. And before he does, and I'm going to remind him to recognize his committee, because they all did a fantastic, amazing, outstanding, remarkable. I don't think you can overstate the job that they did pulling that together, remaining flexible and optimistic through a lot of kind of ups and downs and twists and turns to what was supposed to be our spring benefit concert and auction with an auction component all the way back in March. So with that, I will let Jimmy recognize his committee and give us a quick update.
Well, as I look at the call, the only person for my committee is Nathan. Nathan, thank you for doing something that was actually a massive change from what the club has done previously. We've always talked a lot about promoting our events and our good works in the communities, and Nathan really put that to work, took that charge on, and put together the videos that you saw posted throughout the days leading up to the auction. That message went out to our 1,100 plus followers on Facebook. And not only that, but the sponsorships, or our sponsors that we were able to thank, and our items that we were able to push via our Facebook page went out to over 1,100 people. We had thousands of shares, or thousands of views rather. And what that does is that set us up in a really good position for future events that this club's going to put on, to use our platform to get our message out to our community, so that we can try to bring in more people and raise more funds as we move through these different events. So to Nathan, because you're on the call, thank you so much for everything that you did and for setting that foundation for the club. I hope now that the torch has been passed, that you're able to run with whatever event you plan next year to make us a little bit of scratch. This, so y'all know, for the rest of the guys who are on my committee, a lot of them I've spoken to personally, and we'll be doing something as a group to thank each other and to celebrate the success that we had.
Hey Jimmy, who were the guys on the committee?
It was a big committee. So you had you had some really pivotal players. You had Wes Johnston, Joe Parisi, Ray Fox, Stephen Combast, John Dietz, Wes Darslick, Noah Nadler, and John Petaway. I don't think I left anybody out. Nathan, obviously Nathan, but I already said Nathan. Me. It's always me. So we had it's been a long time. We started working on this back in January, and we took a couple months off because there's some sort of pandemic going on, and we circled back up kind of towards the end of June. I happened to have planned this whole thing while I was on various beaches, mountaintops, or golf courses, so that was a lot of fun for me.
Brag.
And we humble brag, right? And we got it together. So it was an awesome effort, and it was a little bit of a heavier lift than we thought to just flip the switch back on. I remember when I told the guys when we had a conversation about postponing it before they forced us to postpone it, they being the government. And it was like, it's easy, man. We'll just flip a switch. We'll be ready to go. It took a little more work than that because we thought we were going to be able to have an in-person event on August 15th, and that's what we were planning on up until probably the middle of June when it became very clear that was not going to happen. So we had to pivot to this virtual platform, which was as easy as flipping a switch, except for we had to do all the promotion for it. And we had to make sure we still had people's sponsorship dollars, and we had to make sure we still had items locked down. We didn't lose a single sponsor. We didn't lose a single item. If anything, we picked up sponsors and we picked up items as we went through this. Let's talk about the big number, right? Let's talk about what we did. Let's talk about the net number after our expenses. And just to provide a little color on this, in 2017, the net income for the auction was $46K. That was with an in-person event. In 2018, that number was 42. Last year, that number was 34. This year, our net number after expenses is $59,334. This is huge. This is huge. And it speaks to a lot of different things that happened. But what worked was a bigger sponsorship push than we've seen in recent years. Ticket sales, of which we had 4 requests for refund, which we did offer. All 4 of those people decided to not move forward with their request once they understood what the mission was of the club and what their money was being put towards. Rather than being spent on a party, it's going to be actually put back into the Lake Highlands community. Our expenses this year were about $4,800. To shed some light on that, that's about $45,000 less than the past 3 years. So we were able to save the club a lot of money and net more by not having an in-person event. So while we didn't all get together and fellowship and have a good old party with a concert, which I was so excited to put on, by the way. I was really pumped. This works out better for the community and for the club. Any questions?
So what you're saying, Jimmy, the new auction business model should be tell everybody we're having an event that don't have the event, right?
No.
I think it might work, actually.
The new model should be, if you're asking, if that's a question, I think that the charge that's been laid out to Nathan and to future boards and directors of the auction is to charge an appropriate ticket price that covers the cost of the event. There's a lot of bankers, a lot of people in finance in this club, and a lot of just generally smart people Last year we netted 34 and we spent 44. Think about that. And that same trend goes back for as far back as I have records of the auction, where we're spending more to put on these events than we're netting. And the bringing in of ticket prices this year, bringing back ticket prices and providing, the idea was to provide a lot of value behind that. It worked. And if anything, if we were going to provide dinner and a concert and an open bar, maybe an open bar, Chris Brown's not the open bar presidency yet. We don't know. We're going to find out. If we charge an appropriate price, we pay our own way for the party, that'll put us in a position to make more money for our community. So we can put more money in our scholarship program, more money into our community grants program.
Somebody watch that Nathan guy if he's running it next year. He's the open bar king.
The open bar bandit, if you will.
You're welcome.
So by charging ticket prices, if we did that last year, how much would that cover?
Yeah, so the idea, and that's a good question, Rick. The idea behind what we were trying to accomplish with the auction initially was to not have an auction. And you all, for the most part, sat around a table or sat with KC and heard me say that. The idea wasn't to have to raise funds through the auction. It was to introduce a new concept that we'd be able to run with moving forward. If we had had the in-person event, we likely would have had a similar number to last year, maybe a little bit higher. But again, the idea wasn't to beat what we did. It was to introduce a new concept to the club and to our community that we could use in years moving forward. So this was supposed to be a foundational year for a new concept. And it ended up just being an auction, which worked out long term. So the numbers wouldn't have been much prettier than last year had we had the event. And that goes back to what I was saying about we spend more than we make, and or more than we net rather. And we all know that's not how we should run things. So there's questions that have been posed to future directors and future boards to figure out how can we maximize the net income to the club. And that can be through sponsorships. We used our platform this year to promote our sponsors on Facebook. We're going to be able to go to future sponsors and show them what they got, right? Here's what we're going to do. Here's the outreach you're going to get. We're talking about 1,100 plus people, and people are joining the club public page every day now. And I'm seeing it because I have that access now. And it's got to be because we've been pushing like 50 plus posts, and that's getting blasted out, liked, and shared. That social media effect will allow us to become that BMW Oktoberfest, right? BMW of Dallas Oktoberfest. We always joke about that, but getting those big corporate sponsors, and that could be part of the answer. Maybe it's ticket prices in the short term, but there's going to be a give and take that future directors are going to see that we can do and we can go out and get. And by the way, we did our sponsorships without any crossover to Oktoberfest, and we made that a point when we were going out to find people. There was one person who donates to both, and that's just because that's their prerogative.
Hey, Jimmy.
Go.
Quick question. How did we, I mean, I like the new format and having flexibility of this new format. I've got to believe that if we get in a situation like this again, that other organizations are going to see the success and try to replicate what we've done, and then we'll be right back where we always are on the auction and fighting other organizations and et cetera. How did we, just a small part of it was that raffle for that shotgun. How did that, what was the participation in that? Did we make money in that? Because I know we've talked about raffling items before. I've heard of other organizations raffling items. Was that successful or not? Or
that gun didn't cost us a dime. So yeah, it was successful at $1. We ended up making about $3,600 on it. So that was successful from the get-go. Getting things donated was key. Having guys in the club who are willing to put forth their own dollars to pay for stuff was really, really important. One thing to speak to, running into other organizations and Nathan and I have spoken about this. We always have this event in the spring. We have Oktoberfest in the fall. In the spring, having run this for 2 years, here's what I can tell you. I had 2 options on dates. One was at the beginning of February, and one was March 28th. And it was the same deal last year because I'm planning around Y Guides, Y Princesses, or Adventure Guides, Adventure Princesses, sorry. School auctions, different like Boy Scout camp, you name it, right? We're trying to plan around everything. You know when we're not planning around anything? The middle of August, right before school starts. And everybody doesn't have auction fatigue, right? They hadn't already spent their $500 to buy a Yeti cooler or to go on a trip or whatever. We're not getting the leftovers, right? We're getting people fresh, relatively speaking, to the auction scene for the year, right? So I think that's something that Nathan and future directors will have to consider. We didn't have any competition. You talk about other organizations competing against them. Sure, maybe we just will be where they're not. Yeah,
it helped that, we did it at a time when there wasn't a whole lot else going on. We were positioned to put on an event, even though it turned out to be a virtual event because of the planning that we had done earlier in the spring. And, there was a kind of a confluence of events that helped make this successful, and timing was certainly part of it. And I think, just people looking for an opportunity to do something out of the ordinary because everybody was tired of sitting at home doing the same things. And this was something kind of new and different. And frankly, it had to do with the outreach, getting it out on the social media. And I just think the committee was relentless in its pursuit of donors and sponsors and in its pursuit of getting the message out. And that's what worked. So definitely a lot for us to think about kind of going forward on how we do it. If you're going to host an in-person event, you got to spend some money to do it. And, kind of figuring out a way to cover those costs coming in the door on minute one is important. That's always been our objective with Oktoberfest. We've been working to make that our objective with the spring fundraiser, and Jimmy came up with a great plan and model for doing that, and it turned out to be a little bit different than what we anticipated, but a smashing success, and credit to him and the committee for a job well done. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, last thing on the list, and we're way past meeting time. I appreciate those of you who have stuck around, and we've got almost our full complement of folks that started, so appreciate it. The board, I guess when we kind of kicked off the regular virtual meeting schedule back in June or July, I said we would look at a possible return to in-person meetings. We'd kind of make that decision as the school year approached. And so we discussed it last night and kind of put some feet to the idea of what metrics are we going to look at and follow in terms of going back to in-person. And one of those metrics is the poll that we did back in July to find out kind of what the club was thinking, what membership was thinking in terms of going back to in-person. And the poll had a lot of assumptions, and if this, and would you do this? What would your preference be? And our response numbers in terms of overall club membership were relatively low, so the percentages may not reflect the entire membership. But it was pretty overwhelmingly in favor of going back to in-person, assuming social distancing and appropriate numbers and responsible and whatnot. So now we're kind of close to that time when we said we'd make a decision, and I think consensus among the board was following the lead of what the school district, Richardson Independent School District, does. Seems to make a lot of sense. They're looking at numbers that are kind of numbers that make sense in our neighborhood. They're not looking at just Dallas County-wide information, which I don't know whether that would be appropriate for us to look at or not. But from hearing the update from the administrators a couple of weeks ago, it seems like the data and the metrics that they're using would seem to make sense and apply to us as well. So they seem to be a good guidepost for whether we should be going back to in-person. If and when we do, we'll do it with a virtual option. We'll set up the Zoom so that people that either can't or don't feel comfortable coming to an in-person setting can do that. So with that said, and with the school district currently having a plan of being back in person on September 8th, we've talked to the KC. The KC has some obligations and things going on that keep them from hosting us before pretty much the end of September. So we're going to pencil in October 2nd, 2020. That's a Friday at 7 a.m. For our first in-person meeting with a virtual option. And that is subject to change. Again, we're going to kind of watch and follow what the school district does. And the board will make our final decision at our September board meeting and should have an announcement up or down on the September 17th Thursday evening Zoom meeting. So 2 weeks before the October 2nd meeting. It gives us a good benchmark to follow. The students will have been in school for, roughly 10 days by that time. And, hopefully we'll have a sense of whether that's something that's going to work. We will work with the KC on kind of setting up appropriate measures at the KC Hall to keep things safe and sanitary. And we'll still do a buffet, but I think they're going to have servers serving from the buffet instead of us, sticking our heads and faces over the food. And then we'll set up the tables and chairs and do it in a way that makes sense for everybody, where we can be safe, and we'll do masks unless you're eating and drinking. So with that kind of as our guide, I wanted to see, and I know we don't have a ton of people on the call, and we haven't pushed this out by email like we did with the previous poll. And I don't know whether we do it as a show of hands, Rick, or if you've got the poll question you want to put up. I was just kind of curious among those who are on, because y'all are the ones who are willing to participate in the Zoom meetings. Are we ready under those circumstances to go back to in-person? And so there, you can see the poll. And by the way, these are all anonymous. Even when Rick sends me the numbers, all I see are numbers. I don't see names. So, and that's another thing. When we do announce this, we'll be doing so in a way that makes it clear. If you're wanting to do the Zoom and opting to do that, that is 100% acceptable. There are 100 reasons why that might be your preference, and no one should feel guilty, ashamed of doing that, or obligated to come in person. We'd like to give folks the option. So, Mark's comment. All right. I mean, at least it looks like we won't have 20 people at the KC if we go back to in person. And I've told this to a number of people. I told it to the board last night. 30 people on a Zoom meeting seems less empty than 30 people in the KC. Even though we know that's a pretty light attendance number overall. I'd hate to go back to the KC and have a good speaker come in and face a crowd of 20, 25, 30 people. So we will again move forward with that plan, penciling in October 2nd, final decision to be made at that September board meeting as we kind of watch and see how things go with RISD and kind of the numbers that they're watching. So that is my update. There's a good question there about RSVPing. We might start including something like that in the newsletter just to help us get an idea. I guess we kind of have to cross our fingers and hope folks would respond. So, but that may be something we consider doing, Javier. That's not a bad idea. Max Headroom, yes. Yeah.
Again, we're going back to the 80s, and some people aren't going to get that. That's right.
Yeah, I don't have the background or the sunglasses or the hair, so.
So it was a tight vote?
Oh yeah. I guess y'all see. I don't know if y'all can see the numbers. I'm just going to say overwhelmingly in favor of in person.
Yep.
So, yep, we're bored. We are bored. I think, like I said, there's going to be some folks that are going to be cautious and conservative about it, and they should be. But yeah, there are those of us that are probably ready to do this. So, if we can do it responsibly, I think that's going to be our plan, and we'll let everybody know finally that last week in September. All right, Mr. Morrow, Mr. Solomon, we're glad you've joined the club. Glad you joined us this evening. If you'd like to hop on and say hello and introduce yourselves, that'd be great. If not, that's perfectly fine as well. Our next meeting will be September 3rd at 7 p.m. via Zoom. And there's Mr. Morrow. He's got his camera on. How are you?
Good.
Very good. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. You bet.
What's the program? Do we have a program yet for the next meeting, or keep us in suspense? Michael?
Not final yet.
Okay, good.
You'll have it shortly.
All right. I'm excited.
He's calling you tomorrow, Chris.
All right. Surprise. I'm the program, guys. We expect a record crowd.
That's right. That's right. All right. Let's see. Very nice. Okay. That is all I've got. I appreciate all of y'all jumping on this evening. It's good to hear from Ona. And really appreciate the continued support for the Zoom meetings and for the club. There was a question earlier about people wanting out for dues and whatnot. We've made that available to club members who need some assistance or would like some assistance, and we have had just the slightest number of takers, and I mean the slightest. So really appreciate everyone sticking with us. It's very helpful. Between that and Jimmy's effort with the auction, we're doing okay financially. The outlook is good that we don't finish this year deep in the red. And for the benefit of those who are on here that don't have a whole lot of insight into the numbers, we were projecting a pretty healthy loss for the year, assuming we didn't have our fundraising events. We have a little bit of a rainy day fund thanks to some prior administrations helping us out in that regard. But the auction results and dues paying members sticking with us even though we're not meeting in person and you're not getting runny eggs on Friday mornings is a huge help. So
are those real eggs or is that egg product?
Hats to you guys. I think they're real eggs, Patrick.
You think they're real eggs?
Egg beaters.
I don't know about that, Chris.
Hey, I'll tell you what.
I've stuck back in that kitchen before. I think those are eggs.
For all those people that complain about the breakfast, I don't want to hear another word. Period. You're going to get it and you're going to like it when we get back in there.
Hey, we've run that poll before. Would you rather stick with the eggs and biscuits and gravy or do something else? And boy, the screaming and hollering if we were to switch it up is loud. So they did put tortillas out. Rick got them putting tortillas out so you can make your eggs and bacon into a breakfast taco now.
Rick, no, I was going to Sam's to get that and bringing it. That wasn't them. There's no them.
Food or beverage.
And every Texas Tech grad rejoiced.
Years ago, they had a casserole of
eggs.
Potato.
French toast. It was pretty good.
Hmm.
Hey, here's a fun fact about tortillas. My daughter, our house got toilet papered and tortilled, which I guess is a new thing. And they stayed on the roof. We have a metal roof. They stayed on the roof for, I don't know, a couple of days because I was lazy. And
That sounds yummy.
now there's stain marks all over it. Round things all over our roof that I can't get off even with a power sprayer.
Oh,
I don't know
no.
what that has in it, but it's not good for metal.
But how did they taste after warming them up on the roof? That
Nice
sounds
and
probably,
A little crunchy, but they got
they turned into tostadas.
It stains the roof. I mean, how could it hurt our insides? I mean,
Chris, is this where the meeting devolves into the meeting, the real meeting behind the meeting?
We just shifted into happy hour. I don't know if you realize that, but we're at happy hour now. Of course, I'm in my office
This is the
and don't have a
Chris,
stash
you
somewhere to reach into.
so I can stop recording.
this is the after party.
Right. Stop the recording.
That's
This
right.
is where it goes off the rails.
Meeting's over. Adjourned.